Biotechnology. This is a word that everybody who cares about skincare should understand what it means. Should understand what it means and should understand what it doesn't mean. How is it relevant for your skincare? Why your skincare might work better when biotechnology is involved. Hi skincare people, Custodian here again. Last week I was a bad boy. I missed joining you here. So sorry for those of you which follow the channel. It won't happen all the time, but from times to times due to job responsibility, sometimes I might fail. Those of you who don't know, this is the Age Traveler. I work in product development for many years now and in the skincare industry for more than 30 years. I'm an old man, and here I'm always trying to ask the question, what is that skin wanted before marketing got in the way? And today we're talking about biotechnology. This is something which is very dear to my heart, as I work with Swiss skincare brands already now for 18 years. So there is actually a video here that I did some time ago. Actually, Yvonne, my little bird, is there as well. So you should watch the video, and it's talking about Swiss skincare. What does it distinguish from others? One of the factors is actually biotechnology. This word is oftentimes confused with genetic modifying or genetic engineering. This idea of technology gives us an idea of something necessarily machine operated or somewhat artificial, where let's look more at the word bio, meaning life, than technology. Basically, biotechnology means that raw materials, plant extracts, different molecules are worked. That's what technology means, but oftentimes using natural processes. So fermentation is a good example of a biotechnological procedure. Oftentimes you have enzymatic pre-digestions, which are also biotechnology, and these are not altering. So biotechnology, it's done to a raw material, to an extract. It's not done to a living species of a plant or an animal. So genetic manipulation, genetic modifying has nothing to do with biotechnology. And why I think biotechnology is so interesting, and that's what maybe for you can be also good to make note, is that a lot of the challenges that ingredients, any skincare ingredient for the matter, has is to cross barrier of the skin. It's to be accepted, it's to be understood. It's what's called bioavailability. Just because you have an ingredient and you have a concentration of that ingredient, it doesn't mean that that ingredient will be delivered and travel inside the skin the way it should do. So just because an ingredient is there, and it's there in a certain concentration, and we all know what it means nowadays, this marketing game of concentrations, so more 2%, more 5% of something, and this is not always the entire truth, because not only the quality, the purity of the ingredient matter, but also how bioavailable that ingredient will be. Not all formulations, transport system, preservation systems are the same. So just because a label says a concentration of an ingredient, it's a good indication, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that 2% are necessarily better than 10%, but it depends the ingredient we are talking about. For some ingredients, 10% will for sure be too much. But the bioavailability, the way the ingredient penetrates the skin, it's something which Swiss brands and me personally, I'm very fascinated, because they represent what real exceptional skincare should be all about, which is to be more skin identical, more understood by skin, and that's why you always need those pre-digestive enzymes or ferments to make those ingredients more skin identical. But I also wanted to touch, since we are talking about biotechnology, saying what's not and saying what it is, why it works, but I also want to highlight how oftentimes these cultures of plant extracts, and even going further, culture of plants for biotechnology, very often the same laboratories doing the biotechnological processes on the raw materials also use ways to replicate and to produce using just small amounts of plant material extracted from nature. And this is interesting. Why? Because we are brainwashed with these waves and waves of clean beauty and products talking about how much the concentration of natural ingredients exist in the formula. So now let's forget about efficacy and skin identical, but let's think about sustainability. Very often I'm amazed how so many people get puzzled with the idea that something taken away from nature, it's good for nature. So the more raw material resources from nature you consume, and more monocrops, the more certain plant extracts become fashionable. The same way in food, when the red tuna in sushi depletes the populations of tuna just because something becomes fashionable. The same thing happens in skincare with plant material. And a lot of these laboratories doing biotechnology, they actually have developed techniques to replicate plant cells with cellular culture of such plants. So you don't need to always harvest. And this is particularly interesting when we talk about plants which are rare or plants which are even protected species. You know, interesting enough, as I'm talking from Switzerland, there are some alpine specific plants which are protected, and some are even no longer existing in nature, but because of these cellular cultures, they have been preserved and then they are replicated in a laboratory under controlled, it's not the full plant which is replicated, but the relevant cells of those plants are replicated in a laboratory environment. And also this biotechnology applied to the raw materials obtained from those plants can be very interesting, because, you know, we should ask ourselves, why do we use plant extracts to begin with? Mostly because of how much such plant extracts contain antioxidants, they contain some phytochemicals. You know, plants cannot run, cannot move differently from animals. So it's part of the plant biology to have defensive mechanisms which protect the plant from the temperatures, from the UV stress. So it's possible in those laboratorial conditions to stress those cellular cultures further. It doesn't sound like something very friendly, but well, we're talking about plant cells. We're not talking about living sentient organisms. I don't think you worry so much about the plants feeling pain, even less the plant cells cultured in a laboratory. But what are these stressors? Basically, what you do is you apply UV stress, you apply temperature amplitudes, so you lower the temperature, you increase the temperature, and those plant cells react to those stressors, the different temperatures, the moist in the atmosphere, and the UV stress, producing more of those antioxidants and those beneficial molecules. So in nature, you have to rely on the seasons, on the temperatures and the UV exposure for the plants developing such molecules and such antioxidants. I think you grasp what I'm aiming for, is that when you apply biotechnology, when you apply more laboratorial, more pharmaceutical intelligence to plant cultures and plant extracts, you land on something much more extraordinary than just a raw material extracted from a plant. Don't forget that. Don't forget that for natural ingredients you rely on nature. When in a laboratory you can stress the plant, the cellular culture of that plant, you obtain concentrations of antioxidants, which then are made bioavailable using those fermentations, enzyme, pre-digestion, and this is what makes skincare really exciting. But what I wanted is to bring awareness to how sustainable from the supply of raw material, cellular cultures, and biotechnology can be. And this is probably an angle that you have never thought of, because everybody's telling you if it comes from nature, it's good for nature. Actually, if it's built based on natural raw base, but built with pharmaceutical intelligence, you land on much more consistent, much more regular production regardless of the season, and you can even increase the capacity and the benefits. I'm always saying you should say no to boring skincare, and biotechnology, it's seldom boring skincare. So see you next week. Ciao.